Welcome to Sharper Square, presented by Hard Rock Bet. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network. This is the betting show that makes the squares sharper and makes the wise guys pay attention. I am Chad Millman. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, my BFF, my companion, my compadre, professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Chad, what another weekend of sports, brother. It just never stops. I keep thinking we're going to get a little break here, but I guess with the World Cup, the NBA trade news, it's never ending. It just keeps on going.
It's too much, Simon. It's too much to keep up with. There's no resting in sports, which is why, Simon, instead of talking about sports, we're continuing Hollywood Week, because there's sports and then there are podcast BFFs. And this week, we're going to talk about underrated gambling movies and getting some answers to burning Hollywood questions, including right now, if you wanted to make some early bets for Oscar contenders in the next year, guess who we're bringing back? Our good buddy, my lunch buddy. When I like to lunch in Hollywood, what I do is I call this guy and I say, let's power it up. Let's do pure power lunch. He is the ultimate Hollywood insider. He is our Academy Awards expert, talent manager to the stars at Mosaic in Los Angeles, California. Welcome back to the show, Michael Lasker.
Guys, what an honor to be here. By the way, I thought that, I guess because of the World Cup and the NBA trade stuff, isn't this is like supposed to be the quiet part of the summer post the NBA finals, but it's like there's no rest for the weary now.
Also, when this airs, we will have come out of the NBA draft. There will be free agency coming up. There is obviously the World Cup. There is baseball excitement happening. I mean, in theory, ESPN always did the ESPYs in the middle of July because that's the dead zone in sports. And now, of course, that'll be when the World Cup finals are happening in New York, New Jersey, which is where the ESPYs are going to be this year. And then all of a sudden you turn around and that week, NFL training camps are opening. So Lasker, we're like Hollywood, there is no downtime.
You never stop. I mean, I was talking to an agent this morning who has a client who has a movie coming out at Christmas. And she was like, she's very bullish on the film. And she was like, but I wonder if my Christmas will be ruined, because what you're thinking as the rep is like, and I've been in the situation where you have a client's movie open over the break and it doesn't do well. And then you're on the phone with the client, you're on the phone with the studio. There's good and bad. There's also moments where movies can do amazing over Christmas because they do tend to do well in that Christmas corridor. That's an old, there's a marketing term, I'm going to teach your audience here. It's called 7 days of Saturdays. And that's the week between like Christmas and New Year's. And because the idea is that every kid is out of school. Most adults, not most, whatever, but adults by and large probably have time off. And all you're doing is going to the movies. And that's why if you go back and look at a lot of the Christmas corridors, there's a lot of really weird, for you guys being into numbers, there's a lot of really weird aberrations where the multiple gets much, much higher. So like I actually remember there was a year, there was a good movie, not a classic, but this movie Sisters came out with Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. It was a comedy that came out from Universal at Christmas time. And I think the movie opened to 12 or something, and it made $90 million. That's a huge multiple, and you get that over Christmas. Now, of course, it happened last year with The Housemaid. The Housemaid opened pretty well and then became a juggernaut. It happened 2 years earlier, also with Sydney Sweeney with Anything But You. That movie opened to $8 million and made $240 million or something in America. So Christmas can be very, very good because everyone just wants to go to the movies. It's like rising tides lift all boats.
Well, that's like betting during March Madness, betting on the Super Bowl. In our business, it compounds and gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
The most surprising thing you just said, Sisters made $90 million.
Yeah, look it up. Made something like $90 million. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Listen, there was a time when comedies, they worked better than they do now, unfortunately. But Hollywood is in a very upbeat mood right now. Box office is
people are very happy.
Movies coming out of nowhere, movies made for nothing, making hundreds of millions of dollars, big movies doing well. So we'll get into all that. I know I'm not going to try to host your show for you. I know you have.
No. Actually, I got questions, and like we can blow up the script a little bit because when we knew you were coming on, Simon had a very specific question.
Yeah.
And there has been news around this studio this week, which you can speak to. Simon, just ask your question now instead of the order of the script, because it's incredibly relevant for what's happening in this world today.
Yeah, I've been a big movie guy. I love movies, and I am one of those people that thought we were in a dead age of movies, right? We kind of hit this period of Netflix, all these subscription programs, and these Marvel movies. I could feel it killing what I think all of us love, which is the mid-tiers, right? The Goodwill Huntings of the world. We want these original movie scripts, not biggest budgets, right? The medium budget, so they still get maybe one or two great actors in it. For the most part, it's some unknown talent, and it makes you feel something. That's what we want, right? And you go to the movies, you want to feel something. I feel like we had lost that, and I told Chad, I feel like A24 is this dark horse sleeper that has saved the movie theater industry. They're not talked about this way, but as someone that loves original films, I'll never forget the first time I saw this movie called Witch, which Chad probably hasn't heard of it. It's literally about these pilgrims that are in these woods of the, like, I don't know if it is the pilgrims, but it's set at that time period of the original Americans living in the middle of the woods, and how terrifying being alone in the woods, surrounded by animals and noises, and what they thought was a witch. I saw this movie and it scared me so bad. I looked up the studio and it was A24. And I was like, from that point forward, I've been all in on A24 ever since then. And now all these years later, I just think about how great they've done. And I would love to get your take on it, where we have like you just said, we have the back rooms. We have these small movies. I mean, Obsession. I don't know if Chad's seen it. That movie also scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So
really scary.
I would love to know your view of it. Are we in this new golden age of movies? Is this going to be this new age of these studios taking risks now, because A24 has taken so many big risks and they've hit all these home runs?
Well, I think it's a great question, and you have to break it down for a couple different angles. I mean, first of all, the answer is emphatically yes. A24, which I'm sure I've said here before, it's the modern day version of Miramax. That's what Miramax in the 90s and 2000s, and even into the 2010s when it became the Weinstein Company. That's what they were doing. They were making adult dramas that you go back and, like, I always think back to this one in particular. God, I'm blanking on the name, but it's the Steve Coogan, Judi Dench movie, where Judi Dench is a nun who was forced to give up a child she had back like when she was 20, and Coogan's a journalist, and he's taking her much later in her life back to like her roots. I think maybe the kid died early. I know I'm blanking on the name. We'll look it up in a second. But that movie made like $140 million, and worldwide, and only Miramax could do that. Got to look up this movie. This is a rare miss for me, but the Judi Dench, Steve Coogan film. But my point is, they were making all those movies, and without a doubt, I mean, and what A24 has done is interesting to bring up The Witch, because they decided a very long time ago they were going to make elevated horror films as well, because they felt like that was a big part of the audience that would come out that wanted to be scared, but also wanted to be, stimulated. And the best horror films, they didn't make Get Out, but the best horror films like Get Out are really about social issues. And I think with Obsession, which I loved Obsession, thought it was brilliant, is that, what it's really about, I don't know if I'd say it's toxic masculinity, but it's definitely about men not having the ability to say what they want, not having the ability to actually kind of be emotionally resonant on, how they feel about something. And because this guy, this like cuck, can't just say to this girl, like, yeah, I like you, can I take you on a date? It unleashes this chain of events that ruins everybody's lives forever. And I thought it was so well done. And I think going into it, you think, oh, it's an indictment of women because it's about like women going crazy. Like, no, it's an indictment of men. The woman is the victim in the movie. And so, yes, I think, and A24 didn't make that. That movie was made independently for $1 million, $750,000, and picked up by Focus. A24 made Backrooms. And, but yeah, the answer is A24, without a doubt, has led the way to say, we want to make the elevated adult film. Their movies at times have not been as, like the Miramax films, going back to like Good Will Hunting and Cider House Rules and things like that, they were like a little more, in ways down the middle, a little more syrupy, not in a bad way, but like, yeah, they give you the feels. A24 doesn't typically make, like, their version of that is Marty Supreme. And that's a movie that does give you the feels. A lot of people, I know we covered it here during Oscar season. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But the people that loved it, it gave them the feels at the end of the movie with the big kind of reveal of how it ends. But that movie is much grimier and much dirtier and much more like kind of in the sewer than some of those like Miramax films, back in the day. But A24 has done it. They've definitely taken some of the landscape and the runway from the major studios who are doing it less. We can get into that in a second. There's other companies doing it. This company, Neon, they made the movie Parasite. They've won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival 7 years in a row. They made Anora. And I don't know why. I don't know why Anora wasn't an A24 film. I don't know what happened when that movie was being shopped and whatnot. But these are all films that you would put at these companies that are making these elevated films for adults, where they feel like they can actually get them to real box office. Although ironically, Anora didn't actually make that much money. I mean, it's obviously a humongous hit and it won all these Oscars. A24 has had a better run at taking these mid-sized movies, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that movie made like $50 million, like out of nowhere. They had a really good movie last year called Heretic with Hugh Grant about the two Mormon girls that show up to the guy's house to talk to him about joining the religion. And turns out he's like entrapped all these people. That movie made like $50 million, like very quietly. It was a really, really good movie, really good Hugh Grant performance. So I think that A24 is a huge part of what's helping our business for sure. Backrooms has been a smash. That movie was, the way that movie originated is there were a couple different producers, James Wan's company. James Wan made the Conjuring films, and then Sean Levy's company. Sean Levy, is more of a mainstream comedy, elevated, 4-quadrant director like Deadpool versus Wolverine, and he made like The Night at the Museums. Two executives, Michael Clear and Dan Cohen at those companies, they found Backrooms. They were trying to get it set up. Hollywood was passing. They then went to an executive named Corey Adelson, who runs kind of a smaller division of Peter Chernon's company. Chad knows Peter Chernin very well. And they had a deal with A24, which was designed to take bets on challenging movies, where the Chernin side and the A24 side would split the budget evenly. So that's what they did. They marched it into A24, who had seen an early iteration of it. And now they said, we'll pay for half of it. So it was a $13 million movie. Chernin writes a check for $6.5 million, A24 $6.5 million. Then they split the marketing costs. I don't know what those were. And the rest is history. And, this also is connecting to, a lot of people are like, is YouTube the new IP? And I don't think saying it's IP is the right way of putting it. I think it's just more like YouTube is a breeding ground for all of these directors to start building their fan base. I mean, it's no different than like a band that we're a little older than you, Simon, but like there was a lot of people in like Seattle that like had seen Pearl Jam before like the world knew what Pearl Jam was. And then all of a sudden their stuff's getting more play on radio stations, and they're having iconic songs like 10 or Jeremy, which is on the album 10, which turned into this amazing music video. And then they get bigger and bigger, but the people in Seattle knew who they were like 5 years earlier. I think that's what YouTube is doing on a much more massive scale. So Kane Parsons, who made Backrooms, already had a fan base. Same with Corey Barker, who made Obsession. So it's great. I mean, we need them taking chances like this. The thing I was going to say that I was thinking about when you guys asked me to come on, I think another reason that we have lost this mid-budget adult drama, it is because of television. Because there's so many movies, or there's so many TV shows and limiteds today that would have been movies in the 90s. And again, Chad and I are older than you. In the 90s, like the big boom was like the John Grisham, Michael Crichton, that era. All those books were getting made into movies left and right. The Firm, Pelican Brief, Jurassic Park, Disclosure, stuff like that. And also think about it like this. All the Stephen King books were always made into movies, not TV shows, with the exception of The Stand. The Stand was this big miniseries on ABC because it's a really huge, sprawling book, and people thought it had to be done for television, not for movies. But everything else was turned into a movie. And then the early 2000s, now the audience has been trained differently post Oz, The Sopranos, and The Wire on HBO, and then even things like on FX, like Rescue Me and The Shield, and they're watching TV differently, and they want stuff that takes longer to develop, is deeper, is taking these chances, and is more serialized. So now you have all these books that have been written or getting written in the 2000s, and whereas they might have always been a movie, some of them are becoming TV shows because, hey, why would I do it as a 2.5 hour movie that only like William Goldman can adapt? when we have all these brilliant people that could make it an 8-hour movie or a 10-hour movie. I thought it was always an interesting litmus test, which would connect back to sports, was Friday Night Lights. So Friday Night Lights gets written in the 90s, brilliant book by Buzz Bissinger. And, it's about this small town in Odessa and about how football rules the town. And I read it in college and I thought, oh, this is a TV show, not a movie. Well, they ended up doing both. They made a brilliant movie with Billy Bob Thornton, and then they made a brilliant TV show with Kyle Chandler. And so I think now you're seeing it was announced, Netflix is finally going to make the corrections. And HBO was trying to make this 12 years ago. This is a very famous Jonathan Franzen film, Jonathan Franzen book that came out in the 2000s. So you just see that more and more. A client of mine, Lee Eisenberg, had made this limited for Apple a couple years ago called Lessons in Chemistry. That would have been a 2.5-hour movie in 2000.
I watched that.
1997. Yeah, with Brie Larson. It was really good.
It was really good.
But I think what's happened is, better example even, like Big Little Lies, right? Which they've made 2 seasons of. This hasn't been announced officially that they're going to make a 3rd season. I'm breaking news on your podcast. And Big Little Lies would have been a really good movie in the 90s. That would have starred Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock and Julia Roberts and Meryl Streep and all the people that are in it today, minus Julia Roberts. And so now I think, the culture and the industry looks at the whole board, and you nailed it, Simon. It goes back to like the Marvel stuff. Hollywood we got too addicted to, oh my God, we can make these movies that can make $1 billion every time out. And Hollywood's kind of paying for that right now. I mean, look at what happened last month. Lucas made a Star Wars film that was from a TV show. I think the fan base felt like this was just a TV show at the movies. They didn't want that. And in the meantime, they went and saw Backrooms. They went and saw Obsession. They wanted to see something that is new. I was talking to a producer on Sunday who was playing golf on a trip, and he had a caddy. He had like a young caddy. This producer's in his 40s. Caddy.
Everything about this sounds like a fucking cliche, Lasker. I'm talking to a producer. He's playing golf. He's got some caddy.
I know. It's like I'm talking to Joel Silver or something. This guy is not Joel Silver.
And then he killed the caddy because the caddy gave him bad advice, and he wrapped his club around his head.
But he said to me that he said to the caddy, do you go to the movies? Like, what are you watching? And the caddy was like, oh my God, I saw Backrooms, I saw Obsession, I saw this, I saw that. And what the caddy said, and I have always believed this, is that, yeah, me and my friends, we are obsessed with movies, and we go to the movies all the time. We need more movies to go see. And this is what Hollywood has been relearning post-COVID, is that you have to flood the zone. When people go to the movie theater, they need to see all these movie posters on the wall. It makes them want to go back. You can't spread it out. And I think there were some real naysayers during COVID that thought, well, the only thing that's going to be back in the movies is going to be Top Gun. It'll be the big movies. It's not true. People want a communal experience. They do it in every other walk of their life. They go to concerts, they go to stand-up shows. All that stuff is like up tenfold, especially stand-up. And so they will go to the movies. Give them a reason. And I think with Obsession, that movie obviously resonated because if you're under like 25, and you're basically in the beginning part of your life of like, I like a girl, I like a guy that I want to like get to know, like that movie was made for you. It's like an anthem for what you have that first shitty job, you like the girl, you're not sure if she likes you back. It spoke to so many things that are, kind of going on in our society. And I actually think, Backrooms is also fantastic, but I think in a weird way, Obsession is like more relatable. Backrooms has some really big ideas in it that people are obviously very interested in, but I don't know which one stands, but I think Obsession maybe has passed it a little bit. And there's something about Obsession of just like, it's a date movie, it's a friend movie, it's got kind of everything. So I was very impressed by it.
Lasker, number 1.
Yeah.
The Judi Dench, Steve Coogan movie.
Yes.
Philomena. Oh
my God, Philomena, yes.
Thank you. Credit to producer Matt Mitchell. 2, you mentioned Stephen King books becoming movies, now becoming series. Isn't Widow's Bay, which is now one of the biggest shows on Apple and one of the best shows of the past 2 months, isn't that a Stephen King book turned series? I won't even, I'm watching that, Simon. I'm not going to any horror movies. I get afraid to take my dog into our front yard at 10:30 at night because there's so many bears and coyotes in our neighborhood. I'm just afraid I'm going to have to confront something. So there's no way I'm going to see a scary movie. But I'm glad, Lasker, this conversation is exactly about the movies we want to discuss. Because when you talk about gambling movies, whether it's sports betting or otherwise, these are the mid-lane movies. No one's making a $300 million big budget gambling movie. They're always going to be the movies that are made by A24, right? They're always going to be the Rounders. They're always going to be
Uncut Gems is the closest I think we'll get, Chad. That was A24.
Right, Gems. Uncut Gems. Like all of these, like those are the most fun movies. And I feel like there's a real discrepancy between casino gambling movies, poker gambling movies, sort of side hustle, underground gambling movies, and sports betting movies. And Uncut Gems is one of the only like sexy, exciting sports betting movies. Every other movie that's about betting is.
But even that movie makes you feel bad about yourself. I'll come back to that. We're going to address Widow's Bay because you're going to laugh. So Widow's Bay was created by my very good friend Katie Dippold. She will be so honored that you think it's based off a Stephen King novel. No, it's her idea. But they're channeling Stephen King. They're channeling everything. I mean, did you finish the series?
No, I haven't. And give her my compliments.
I will.
Matthew Rhys is ridiculous.
He's amazing. He's a national treasure.
And
Katie is a diehard horror aficionado, and so
it's so good.
It's so good. I love it. Everybody in Hollywood loves it. I think people all over the world love it. I'm so happy for her, and she's worked so hard on it for so long. She loves horror in general, and when I watch a show, because I've known her for so long, we've been such good friends. I can see how in each, like, this is not a spoiler, but episode 8 is kind of the homage to the slasher movie, to like Michael Myers. And I can see in every episode where, oh, this is where Katie was like, I've seen the Halloween movies 10,000 times. I have a very funny spin on like that type of character. And because you look at the episodes and it's like, some are, you know, you could argue is like a zombie episode, and some's like a slasher episode. And some's like a possession episode. By the way, back to Obsession, what I liked, you know, also, it was just such a fresh take on like basically a demon movie, because that's really what it was. But she'll be very, I know with Widow's Bay, what you might think about it, why you said Stephen King, is that I don't know this for sure, I've read about this, I think the font that they used for the words Widow's Bay is a very Stephen King font. I think that might have been intentional. But Stephen King has tweeted about the show. He loves the show.
Maybe that's why I thought it was just because maybe I read it or someone said like Stephen King, Widow's Bay, and that's where
What you're thinking of, Chad, is Welcome to Derry, which
that is actually Stephen. That's right.
A lot of people might not have watched it. That's another show that's like, this is why I love The Age Ring, because that's a brilliant show.
Simon, you're right. You're totally right.
Amazing actors into it. And again, like if anyone's seen the movie it's about little kids surviving, right, defeating this evil clown. The TV show is brilliant because the first 5 minutes they kill the main characters of these kids. So again, I'm watching this with a friend who we're going in thinking, oh, here are these kids, we're gonna watch them for the next 10 episodes. No, the writers kill these kids in the first 5 minutes, and that's why I like this new age we're in, where they're keeping you on your toes. I know The Boys, this TV show that was on Amazon, didn't end the way people liked, right? These TV shows have had rough endings, but that's another show where Seth Rogen had been pitching the anti-superhero show for 10 years and no one would buy it. And then finally Prime took a chance on that show, The Boys, and it worked out. That's another show I think should have been a movie. So I think we're all in agreement now where it's like, not that, you know, Breaking Bad or The Sopranos, you could never make that into a movie, right? That needs to be a TV show. We need 12, 13 episodes of those type of characters. But like you're saying, Obsession, that never, I mean, it could have been a TV show, but it was so perfect as a movie. What it was, like in the theater, what I saw, I'm so glad that it became a movie, because I feel like 5 years ago, Netflix would have bought it and made it into an 8-part TV show.
Or just put it on Netflix where it doesn't have the same. I love Netflix, obviously, and we have a lot of clients who work there, but sometimes it feels like things resonate even more in the culture when they're seen in a movie theater, and you can feel like the culture kind of like talking about it. I mean, there are certainly things on Netflix that resonate. K-Pop Demon Hunters was like one of the biggest movies of last year. That was all Netflix. They took it over from Sony Animation. I think going back to the gambling thing, you touched on something interesting, Chad, you know, which is that you guys had asked me about, you know, talking about gambling movies and underseen movies and all that. And I was making lists and realizing that like, there's like these different kind of lanes of like, there's the casino movies, which could be anything from literally Casino to the Ocean's 11 movies. And even though Casino by an hour in is like, we're just going to all feel bad, for 2 hours, like everything's going to go downhill. It still has a lot of like wish fulfillment and fun stuff of like them showing you the behind the scenes of a casino and how they cheat and how they catch the cheaters and all that stuff. The Ocean's 11 movies obviously are much lighter and much more wish fulfillment of like, how could you actually like take a casino down and this and that. And those movies are really con man movies, more so than betting movies. But then I think there is a whole nother angle, which is Uncut Gems and many others that I'm going to list for you that are just like, and this is why I think, back to your original point, which is like, why is a casino movie more fun than a betting movie? Because most of the betting movies are designed to make you feel bad because they are almost inevitably about addicts who can't get out of their own way. And we'll give your audience some of those examples in a second. And so, although I do have a great betting movie, which I think I brought up on here before that I'm going to bring up again, that I do think is a really fun kind of like uplifting betting movie. But in almost every situation, you're following somebody who is making mistake after mistake and can't get out of their own way. And you're usually like left with nothing. And most of the movies end with like someone's life like completely like ruined. The rare one would be Rounders, right? Because at the end of Rounders, he wins. Spoiler alert, movie's been out for 30 years. He wins, and he's going to go to the World Series Poker. Now you don't know what's going to happen after that. But that's a movie where like that movie has an interesting parabola to it because it lets you revel in what's fun about poker and betting. And then it kind of takes you into the shit with the Edward Norton character, and you realize how seedy it is, and all the debts you owe and things like that. And then it kind of comes back up at the end because it's just really a sports movie. It's really like Rocky, but he wins. And I mean, I will just every now and again, I'll just go on YouTube and watch that final scene when he beats Malkovich. It's so fucking good, and that's such a fun movie. And obviously, your audience knows. It weirdly like preceded the poker boom. The poker boom is like 2003. That movie came out in 1998. The poker boom is when Chris Moneymaker wins out of nowhere, and you're like, oh my God, this like random dude like won all this money and beat out guys like Johnny Chan and Phil Hellmuth. I actually remember, it's not Phil Hellmuth, it's another one of the Phils. But no, I think it's Mike Matusow. I was like, in the mid 2000s, I was watching so much poker at night on ESPN2, and they would do these like little mini like 5-minute docs on these guys' lives, and they were doing one on Mike Matusow, and basically it was like, yeah, he could win like $150,000 on a Monday, and on Tuesday he couldn't pay his phone bill because all these guys are fucking degenerates. Of course. No offense to any of them if they're listening, but
it's my favorite. One of my favorite stories from when I did a cover story and an E60 piece about Phil Ivey heading into the World Series of Poker. I think it was 2009 or 10. I sat with him, and we had traveled all over the world on a gambling tour, basically, right? Like we started in Connecticut. He's in a private room. He's playing craps. He wins about $100,000. We leave. We get on a plane. We go to Montreal. He gets another private room, and he's got his own private croupier. And there's a table in a suite with a conference room attached where we have brunch. Again, there's like 5 people in the room. He draws $1 million of his own money from an account that's at the casino. He plays. I lose him $750,000 in craps. He wins it all back. Ends up walking away. We get to walking away up $750,000. We get to the next stop, and he's won $850,000 over the course of 48 hours at 2 different casinos. And I said to him, like, what amount of money makes you nervous? He's like, I don't know, 5, 10. I go, 5 or 10 what? He goes, million? Like that. That's like where the stakes changed for him in one of these cash games. Lasker, I want you to tell us the movies. Let me take a quick break from our friends at Hard Rock. We'll come back. Tell us the movies you were thinking about. Today's show was brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, Florida's sportsbook. The world's biggest soccer tournament is here. Everyone is watching. National pride is on the line. Superstars chasing immortality. And for the next month, every match feels like a final. If you haven't tried Hard Rock Bet yet, there's no better time to get in the game. Hard Rock Bet is the top-rated sportsbook app built to Viva la Copa. And if you're ever late to kickoff, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet lets you live bet all match long from the first minute to the final whistle. Plus, Hard Rock Bet has new promos daily. We're talking profit boosts, no sweat bets, bonus bets, and more. And be sure to check out No Goals, No Problem, and Super Sub, 2 promos designed to give your bets insurance all tournament long. Sign up with Hard Rock Bet today and place a $5 bet. If it wins, you also score $150 in bonus bets, a winning bet, plus an extra $150 to bet with. Now that's how you get this summer's party started. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today. Roll with us. Go with us. Hard Rock Bet. All right, Lasker, list us the movies.
We'll go like light to dark. So a movie that I promise you your audience has not seen, but is a really fun betting movie that doesn't make you want to kill yourself, is this Michael Ritchie film from 1992 called Diggstown. And Diggstown stars James Woods and Louis Gossett Jr. And what it's about is James Woods is a con man who's just gotten out of prison. And he goes to this small town that is basically run by Bruce Dern. And Bruce Dern is corrupt and owns the police and basically like owns the whole town. And there's a kind of a backstory on how Bruce Dern kind of, maliciously got control of the town. And basically James Woods lures Bruce Dern into a bet where he basically says, because the town is like really big into boxing, and he says, I will bring any fighter I can find that can beat any 10 of your fighters in a 24-hour period. So I'm going to find one guy and he can beat 10 of your guys. That's the bet. And they bet like, $500,000. And so then the twist is, what you find out is that James Woods' old like con man partner is Louis Gossett Jr., who at the time in the movie was probably in his like late 50s, but he still looked really good and was relatively fit. And he is a boxer. So James Woods goes to Louis Gossett Jr. and is like, we're going to take this guy down. Like we're going to beat all 10 of his guys. And what you realize is that everybody is hiding something from the other person. And as the fight starts, where it's this 24-hour period, they keep upping the ante and keep upping the bet. And James Woods has all these tricks up his sleeve, but so does Bruce Dern. And it just goes and goes. It's like Boxer 6, Boxer 7, Boxer 8, and has all these really fun twists at the end of the movie. I won't spoil it, but it's a really fun movie that does not make you leave with like a bad taste in your mouth. And so it's both a con man movie and a bet movie, because the whole movie is a giant bet that keeps escalating as the 24 hours goes on through the boxing match. It's a really good movie. Michael Ritchie, a really talented director. He's not alive anymore. He directed Fletch. He directed The Bad News Bears.
Oh, yeah.
He directed Downhill Racer with Robert Redford. He directed The Candidate with Robert Redford. He's a really talented director that's been a little bit forgotten by the newer generations. Like if you're 45 and over, you definitely know who Michael Ritchie is. If you're under, you probably have never heard of him. That's a really good movie.
Can I interject for 1 second?
Please.
I once got pitched to write a book about Bruce Dern. Number one. Number two, I remember the Diggstown movie poster, and I never went to see it because I had no interest in seeing what looked like a boxing movie with James Woods and Louis Gossett Jr. Now, the way you've described it, I would go to see it. But they did a terrible job marketing that movie because I thought it was a boxing movie with an old Louis Gossett Jr.
100%. I mean, I just remember like seeing the trailer, and I was 13 years old and I went to every movie possible. And my buddy and I went, and we were like blown away by how much we liked it. And it's still like, that's another movie I'll pop that ending on YouTube, watch the last 5 minutes. It's
on Netflix, Chad.
Yeah, you will not regret it. So
I'm in full summer movie mode with my kid. Lasker, my kid and I, there were 5 movies we felt like we had to watch, a couple which he hadn't seen.
Okay.
He hadn't seen Swingers.
Okay, love it. Masterpiece.
Yeah, he hadn't seen Out of Sight with Clooney and Jennifer
Masterpiece,
Lopez.
written by my good friend Scott Frank, Elmore Leonard novel. He adapted it.
So
incredible movie.
I'll read any Elmore Leonard novel. I'm reading one right now, actually. And Out of Sight is one of my 3 favorite movies of all time.
It's incredible.
I think it is brilliant. that scene with J-Lo and George Clooney in the bar in Detroit is like the coolest, sexiest scene maybe in movie history.
Yeah.
I think J-Lo as an actress is amazing, and I feel like I wish she never did any of the music because every movie she's in, she's so good. It's fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant movie. We did Three Kings, also one of my favorite movies. And then we did Moneyball. Mm-hmm. And the last one is Superbad, which we've both seen a million times, but it's part of our quintet. We interrupted it with Top Gun Maverick for Father's Day just because we both like to, we cry a little bit. It's exciting.
You can't not cry at the end of Top Gun Maverick when Miles Teller and Tom Cruise are on the boat together.
You can't. You can't.
When he says, "I did what your father would have done."
Yeah,
you just can't. It's unbelievable. It's
a puddle.
It's absolutely
a freaking
incredible.
Puddle. But Out of Sight, kudos to your buddy because it's brilliant.
Well, Scott Frank is a brilliant. So Scott Frank has been around for a long time. He's been writing since he was right out of college. He wrote this brilliant film called Dead Again in the early '90s that Kenneth Branagh made.
Yeah.
That was an homage to Hitchcock films. And then the first thing he ever wrote actually was a movie called Little Man Tate, which was a movie Jodie Foster made her directorial debut on. But Scott became a huge screenwriter. He still is. But speaking of sports, the thing he's most known for in the last 10 years is he did The Queen's Gambit Limited for Netflix.
Oh,
and he won every award under the sun. And right now he has a show on Netflix called Department Q, which they're doing. He's making the second season right now. Really good mystery that they shoot in Scotland. He did this show Godless, this big Western with Jeff Daniels. He's a brilliant writer, and he's been a big adapter, and he grew up on Elmore Leonard. And Out of Sight, I mean, the other thing about Out of Sight for your audience, and again, the audience today doesn't know as much about Steven Soderbergh, but Steven Soderbergh makes Sex, Lies, and Videotape in 1989. That changes the movie industry. That's an early Miramax film, Simon, that's an early adult movie about sex that takes everybody by storm. Then he makes two movies, King of the Hill and The Underneath, Kafka and King of the Hill, that don't do well. Then he makes another movie called The Underneath, doesn't do well. He's literally in director jail. And then he makes Out of Sight. And Out of Sight does not make a lot of money, but it's incredibly critically well received. Nominated for 2 Oscars, adapted screenplay for Scott, and editing for Anne V. Coates. And then from there, Soderbergh goes on a run that has never been replicated, which is he makes The Limey in 1999 with Terrence Stamp, really good movie.
Great movie.
And then in 2000, he makes Traffic and Aaron Brockovich. He's nominated for Best Director twice in the same year. He wins the Oscar for Traffic. And in 2001, he makes Ocean's 11. I mean, it's the fucking mic drop of all mic drops.
That is the Alan Loeb of 2000, say 10 to 2012 run of directing.
That's very true.
What is the?
So I think some of the other movies, that are not, obviously, you guys have discussed 21, written by Alan Loeb, great movie. I'm sure you guys discussed it last time he was on. Super fun movie, which I think is just the ultimate wish fulfillment of there's 2 wish fulfillments in that movie, which is one, what if as kids you could beat the system? And then also weirdly, because Kevin Spacey plays the teacher, what if your teacher was cool? Even though he ends up not being cool later, but what if he's cool and your teacher helped you make money, which is kind of fun. That's a movie that, people love. It's not so much of a betting movie. It's a con man movie, but it has all these bets inside it. The Sting, if you've never seen The Sting, and The Sting is on Netflix, I think still. Which is a famous film that won Best Picture in 1973, starring Robert Redford and Paul Newman. It's con men, but the method of conning people is to luring them into bets that are fake. So it has a little bit of betting. So you got The Sting, Diggstown, 21. We covered Rounders. Then I think you get more into okay, these are the betting movies that make you want to kill yourself. Uncut Gems is a little bit of that. I mean, I love Uncut Gems. I think it's a masterpiece, but that is a movie that I think, the point of it at the end is gambling is bad. Sorry, Simon. Gambling can undo your life, because he wins and he loses, right? He wins the parlay, but they shoot him in the head because he's fucked them over so much. There's a movie that's really good that you guys probably have not seen called Mississippi Grind, that it was made by this husband and wife team, Anna Fleck and Ryan Bowden. They actually made Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel, the Brie Larson Marvel film that made like $1 billion. But they're really indie directors. And Mississippi Grind is Ryan Reynolds, kind of before he became really famous, and then this really brilliant Australian actor Ben Mendelsohn, and they're just gambling addicts, and they're just like kind of they go on like river boats in the Mississippi area, and they're just like can't get out of their own way, and it's just kind of a little sweet story about these gambling addicts. That's a good movie. One of the more famous gambling films that I guarantee your audience has not seen is California Split with Elliot Gould. That's a famous Robert Altman film from the 70s. You've seen it.
I've seen it because when I wrote The Odds, the main character in The Odds, this guy, Alan Boston, was a 70s movies freak. So we watched everything from like California Split with Elliot Gould to what was that movie with Gene Hackman? I think it was Francis Ford Coppola. The Conversation. Yeah. Like we watched all of those.
Yeah. Well, California Split is a really great movie. Again, it's a movie that like a lot of these movies, this is not a gambling film, but like I always enjoy the structure of Boogie Nights because Boogie Nights is 90 minutes of good times and then 50 minutes of bad times, right? Yeah. After William H. Macy kills himself on New Year's Eve, then the movie's like, now we're gonna feel bad for the next hour. And that's what a lot of these gambling films are. It's like you get to kind of revel in people that are like making money, and then you see how self-destructive they are. Really good movie. It's Elliot Gould and George Segal. They're just like low-life gamblers, can't get out of their own way. And then we talked about these movies on here before, but it's both gamblers. There's the original Gambler in the 70s with James Caan, and then they remade it with Mark Wahlberg. The Mark Wahlberg remake is like not bad. It's kind of interesting, but the James Caan Gambler is basically a masterpiece, and it is filled with so much dread. There's a famous scene in the movie where James Caan's in the bath, and this is like in the 70s, and so he has like one of those like little mini pieces of wood across the bathtub that you can put something on, that you could put a meal on, and he has a radio, and he's listening to like the Knicks or something, and he's clearly bet on the game, and you can tell in real time he's losing. And the whole scene, the way it plays is, oh my God, he's going to knock the radio into the bathtub. He's going to electrocute himself. Like he's going to kill himself in this movie. He doesn't. That's like in the middle of the movie, but it's a really interesting look at a guy that like basically is just gambling to gamble. Like he doesn't derive any pleasure from winning. He just cannot stop betting. So
Matt Mitchell knew that was the Lakers Sonics game he was betting on. And I got to say, Mitchell knew that a little bit too quickly.
Well, I will say this, Chad. What I feel like what he's talking about here, when they want to make a movie about sports betting, it feels like Hollywood, which I get, they want it to end not happy, right? And you didn't mention it. The only movie I feel like gets even close to what I do is Two for the Money, which is, we can make fun of it all the time because it is based on, I think it's Stu Feiner, right? Life.
Yeah.
And that whole scumbag movement of these call guys who you'd call up a number, they give you picks. Yeah, they were thieves. And I think we all know that now, but the 70s, 80s, 90s, you didn't know any better. That was your only option, with some guy popping on your radio station saying, I'm 10-0 this week. Call this number. I'll give you winners. I love the Two for the Money, the stress of it, as someone that does this for a living. When you're hot and you have guys above you work for, and they're betting you're hot, you're hot, and they're betting it with you, you are a god to them. You literally, they'll let you sleep with their wives. Like I'm telling you, these guys love you. As soon as that stops trickling off, you can feel that heat, that pressure. And not that you fear for your life, but there is some of that in this line of business. And I love that whole description of it, of like, that feeling of McConaughey has in Two for the Money, of this guy is kind of been lying to him and kind of, misleading him. And now it's putting all this pressure on him and is losing his mind because of it. There's real parts of that. That's why I think of all the movies you've talked about, the closest to my life and my world is surprisingly that movie, because I, like the guys I work for, we do have an office space that's filled with desks like that. There are TVs everywhere of sports 24/7 and people on the phone making calls, working things. Now it's died down obviously since the mid 2000s, but when I talk to people from the early 2000s to the 90s, that movie, that's what it was like, right? It was.
Well, it's funny. I think that is a good movie. I mean, that movie gets a little maligned because it's like, it was made at a time when like Pacino was just like making every movie possible to like take the paycheck and just like, I'll come in and scream. And McConaughey had not had his like McConaissance yet. And so they're both like really big in the movie, but it's like a perfectly fine movie. And I have no doubt that it connects to, what you're talking about in some of your existence. I mean, I think it's a good movie, actually. Another, one thing we haven't covered, and there's not a ton of them, and this is a really obscure movie. There's a movie from the 90s called Let It Ride, which is a horse betting movie with Richard Dreyfuss. And that's a really good movie, too. That's also just like, analyzing, the betting, at a horse track, and just how, up and down that can be. So, I mean, there's lots of like subset bet movies. You could argue that like Indecent Proposal is like a betting movie, right? Because they're like, they win all this money playing craps. They're trying to save their house, then they lose it all. And that's what induces them to like Robert Redford being like, I want to pay $1 million to sleep with your wife. I mean, there's so many different gradations of like casino culture, and gambling culture and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think, again, like I said, it's like the casino movies in general are flashier and more entertaining because usually it's like they're like process movies. And then these hardcore gambling movies are, it's almost like they feel an obligation to let you know, like, this will end badly. The house does always win. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, maybe not if you got Simon betting for you, but maybe in a way you are the house. But the house knows what it's doing, I mean, it's like we talked about in the past. I mean, it's that funny thing in the beginning of Casino where they're like, Ace knows if, the quarterback got laid the night before, and like there's some new version of that today of like what you guys are figuring out as to like, will Alabama cover or, blah, 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 so.
Lasker, before we let you get out of here, what would you say are the early contenders as of now for the Oscars, whether it's best movie or best picture, best director, actor, actress, anything that people can go look for? Because right now you can already bet on these things. It's
a great question, and I'm going to let you down. I've been having this conversation with many of my friends who, love this stuff as much as I do. There is not, I'm not saying it's a light year. I'm sure they'll end up being fantastic movies, but there's not that many of like, oh, these 10 movies. So last year was one of those movies where like we're getting a new PTA, we're getting a new Safdie movie, like 2 Safdie movies. Like last year, there were so many movies ahead of time of like, these are Oscar films. We've got the Bruce Springsteen movie coming, we've got the Wrecking, the Smashing Machine coming. Obviously, the big one that people are already betting on, which would be an easy bet, is the Odyssey, right? Is Nolan going to do it again? The trailers are incredible. Like, it seems to me, it's funny. There was this like weirdo Elon Musk blowback about like, why is everybody, either white or not white in these certain roles? But the bigger blowback I've heard is people are now being like, why does everybody speak American, speak English? You know what I mean? Like Matt Damon just sounds like Matt Damon. Why didn't they try to make him sound Greek? But, famous little story for you is that when they started shooting Gladiator, Russell Crowe was like, well, I'm a Spaniard. Like, I need to have like a Spanish accent. And Ridley Scott was like, no. Just sound how you sound. You sound fucking awesome.
He's like, no one gives a fuck.
Just no one cares. We're not going for authenticity here. Just be cool. But the Odyssey, obviously, I mean, there's this movie coming out next week called The Invite that Olivia Wilde directed with Seth Rogen. It's like a sex farce comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And people think that could be like a screenplay nominee. There's people that are talking. I don't think it'll happen as of today. People are already talking about Obsession. And
but for Dune 3, you think he has a chance?
Well, Dune 3 could be amazing. I mean, look, Dune 3, I think that I'll come back to Dune 3 in a second. On Obsession, there's early chatter of like, could that actress be nominated for Best Actress? Could the screenplay be nominated? Dune 3 could be great. Denis Villeneuve's brilliant. They're all brilliant. I don't think for a third movie, it's been building in a way that, frankly, the way Lord of the Rings built, where like those movies were so dominant. And yes, both Dunes have been nominated for Best Picture, but it's a slightly different time because you have to remember what Lord of the Rings is. That was 3 Best Picture nominations in a row when it was 5 nominees. Now it's 10 nominees. And I love Dune. I love all the people at Legendary. I don't know if Dune 2 would have been in the 5 nominees, if there had been 5 a couple of years ago, but there were 10. So people are hyped for Dune. Chalamet's brilliant. No one really knows. I mean, people know that it's like darker. They know that like the material is darker, even darker than the first 2. But I don't really feel like there's a buzz yet of like, ooh, we're ending the final chapter of this story that we've all been like glued to. it's tough. I mean, it's tough for a third movie to get nominated. I mean, Avatar 3 didn't get nominated. The second one did. So I don't know. It's an interesting year where like there aren't a ton of like, oh, this person is like the odds-on favorite. Maybe I'm like forgetting something, but like,
what about Project Hail Mary?
Project Hail Mary, I think, will be nominated for Best Picture. Gosling could be nominated. It's tough. It's like, you know, movies obviously can stay having come out in March, but I think that people loved that movie. I'm not feeling in this moment right now that it has the exact staying power that I felt like Sinners was having a year ago. And I think it's because I love Project Hail Mary and love all those people involved. It might not have enough of an issue inside it. I mean, it was, you know, and granted, The Martian was nominated for Best Picture, but that movie came out in October. And so I don't know. I mean, I think it'd be nominated for Best Picture, but I'm not sure it's going to like sweep the Oscars yet. I think it's one of those years where like we don't entirely know. There were a couple of films that popped at the Cannes Film Festival that are supposed to have really good performances, movies you've not heard of that your audience will not care about today that will pop up into the fall award season. But yeah, I mean, there's like not a big like Leo movie this year. There's no Scorsese film. Obviously, PTA was last year. It's so funny. Like, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, like what would be like the full it's like, it's early, you know? I mean, obviously things have been dated, but I'm just literally thinking of like, yeah, I mean, Universal's big movie is The Odyssey, you know? I mean, a lot of the big movies that have been dated for December are just like tentpoles. You know, in December, you have Jumanji 3, you have Dune 3, you have Avengers 5, you know, but those are not going to, outside of maybe Dune, those are not necessarily going to be Oscar films. So we can come back. We can do this again in like September, because I know what you're getting at. It's like you want to give your audience a chance to make some bets in like October. I mean, look, you talked about The Witch, Simon. Robert Eggers, who's really talented, he has his big movie. He made a big werewolf film that's coming out at the end of the year. And you know, his last movie was the Dracula film he had made that was huge and got a couple Oscar nominations for like below the line stuff. So I don't know. You just don't know until you know. You know, it's a crapshoot.
Lasker, we'll get to December and we'll be into the 7 Saturdays Christmas.
That's right.
Corridor.
That's right.
Michael Lasker.
Exactly right.
You got insight, you got taste, you got talent, you got news. You got it all, brother. Thanks for coming.
I love hanging out with you guys. Thanks for having me back.
We love it. I want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day. We're going to be back on Tuesday with our NFL playoff predictions show. That's always a good one. This has been Sharper Square, part of the Volume Podcast Network. Watch or listen on YouTube at Sharper Square. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, download us with Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until next time, love you.
14. Too many. 18. 14.
What's the count?
-9.
Make it -8.
-9.
What makes you so sure?
It's a rule. Always stand by your first count. The odds are you're right.